Alright, what's up guys? I'm going to show you guys how to make your kicks punch through a track and always maintain its intensity throughout the whole track, because in all professional tracks you notice that the kick never goes away. The kick is always right there in the center, and it's always the loudest thing other than the vocals. So the way I'm going to show you guys to do it is kind of similar to how other people do it, but my technique is a little different because a lot of people like to layer their kicks in by frequency range. So some people look for kicks with like a nice high, and then look for kicks with a nice mid, and then kicks with a nice low, and then maybe throw a sub under that. That's a good way of doing it. And the way I do it is kind of similar, but I go more for characteristics. So as you can see, I have these three kicks grouped together, and I'll show you what's going on in my group real quick. But you notice I have a sub, a body, and a punch. So this is what my sub sounds like. And that's just a silent patch I'll show you guys how to make. And then I have a body kick. So it kind of sounds like that. And a punch. So this one's obviously the one that gives me that clicky sound I like. And then this one gives me the oomph. So the transient at the beginning is sort of slower in attack. It's a little softer attack, so it doesn't really clash too much with this bottom one. And then the sub is just reinforcing everything. And it's not a very low sub if you listen to it. And if I show you on a spectrum, I mean, it has obviously the lows, but I mean, you can see it's still very mid, so it's not a low sub, but whatever. And what else I have going on that it's not even turned on is I have the glue compressor and the transient plugin. If you don't have this one's a Native Instruments one that I like to use. You can also use this Oxford transmod, which is what I used to use before I got this one. And the only reason I use this one is because I just like how it's more simple. But yeah, this one I think comes with Complete 9, the bundle. That's kind of how I got this one. Oh, crap. And this one's really good too. If you don't have that one, I think SPL makes one too. Let's see it. Transient Designer. So all three of these plugins do the same thing. They're just you can use the same settings I used in this one and apply them to these. So, you know, just I sharpened the attack, and then I brought the sustain down a little bit. So in this one, you know, sharpen the attack, bring down the sustain, same thing. And then I like how you can A, B, and see this and all this cool stuff. And this one's kind of cool too. This one's definitely the simplest of them all, but it gets the job done. And this one would be the same thing. So this one's a little different. You kind of, the ratio is kind of your attack, and this is kind of your sustain. So this is kind of how that would go. So just showing you guys those real quick. And let's see. So you probably saw my settings. So just I brought the attack up to just give it more of a click kind of sound, and then brought the sustain down. So let me play these all together. Oh, it's not even on. So I'll turn it off. So you can hear it adds that click. And I'm going to bring it up so you can kind of get an idea of what a really loud punch you can get out of this. That's very sharp transient. That's just very, very sharp. Of course, you wouldn't want to go too far with it, because then you'll get a pop or some clicks, and that's no good. So, you know, when I use this, when I bring up the attack, I really don't ever take it past 40%, unless it's, you know, for percussion or something else. But with kicks, I leave it around 22%. And with sustain, sometimes during the drop of a song, I'll bring the sustain on kicks. I'll automate this to like 45%, so you get that big bass wall sound like this. So if you're doing like a very Dirty Dutch or electro house kind of thing, or a very minimalistic style, kind of drop, then if it's just a kick, a percussive sound, and like a little dirty Dutch lead, then this is the kind of kick you might want to go for. But I had mine at around negative 10%, just because I wanted to just kind of keep it more clean in the track. So when it's playing in a track, you want to keep your sustain kind of short, so you leave room for other bass sounds to play off on the offset of the kick. So that's what I did there. And of course the glue compressor, just let's see, since I'm using it as in a group, like kind of how you're supposed to use these kind of compressors, you can use this as a normal compressor, but this is kind of like a bus compressor. So since it's right here on my group track and it's on my kicks, I set the attack to 30, my release to automatic, and I leave it on the ratio 4, and I brought my threshold to negative 15. And then that kind of gives me like around 3 or 4 dB of gain reduction. So okay, at least I think I brought it down a bit, but it's giving me around 2 dB of gain reduction, and I brought the makeup to like 4 dB or 3.49 dB. So to use it accurately, I should kind of bring this down. So now, because the idea when you're using compressors and you're using the makeup gain, you don't want it to be louder unless you're compressing for loudness. I'm kind of compressing for tone, so I don't want it to be even louder than before I added this compressor onto this track here. So it's relatively the same loudness as it is off and on, except when it's on, everything's just compressed and it's more solid. And so okay, so that's what I had going on here. I'm going to show you guys the sub now. And mind you, I'm going to leave these on for this. And let's see, I'll show you kind of this silent patch real quick. So it's just a very basic kick patch. Let me see if anything else is going on in part B. So just it's very simple. Part A, you don't have to change your polyphon voicing or anything like that, but of course, go to menu, initialize right here, and you can do this in any other synthesizer. I mean, as long as it has sine waves, and all synthesizers have sine waves for the most part, unless they're really weird and abstract or digital. But okay, so sine wave for oscillator 1, 8 voices, retrig on. You don't need to touch anything up here, and just bring it down 2 octaves. And attack, leave that alone. Decay, bring that all the way down. Sustain, bring that all the way up. And release is kind of important. So release is at 4.64, but let's say I brought it down to 4.22. That would give me a much shorter subtail, as opposed to if I brought it up to like 5.37. That would give me a nice long subby kick. So this is kind of important here, and I'll kind of demonstrate in a sec, but I do want to move on to oscillator 2, which is another sine wave, 8 voices, retrig on, down an octave. There's a little bit of phasing at 214 degrees, and some detunage at 4.67. And let's see what else. Then I use the filter A right here, and I just use a bandpass on the 12 dB slope, A and B right here. You can leave it on A, but I brought it to A and B, I don't know why. And I guess I made this patch a while ago, so can't remember exactly why I did that. And cutoff right here is at 15 Hertz. Reso is all the way down, drive is all the way down. This cutoff is straight down the middle at 146, or a little bit beneath the middle. And reso is all the way down. Key track is all the way down. There's a little bit of pitch modulation going on here. So click on this green box, go to pitch A and B, and bring this knob, this parameter to the left of this green box, up 2.67, And all you're going to do is bring the decay up to 1.67. And there's a little bit of distortion here. So it's just overdrive. The amount is 3.43. Dry wet is 93.33%. And for EQ, I'm just boosting all these frequencies. So boosting the bass by 9 dB. Bass frequency is 170 hertz. Treble, I'm boosting 9 dB. And I'm boosting that around 44 hertz, 440 hertz. So that's basically it. And now I'll show you kind of about the release I mentioned, so you guys can kind of hear that. So you can hear how it's kind of just, well, let me bring up the release. I can't really explain it. See, if I bring the release up to like 6.25, you can hear it's just got more of like a big bass wall. And if I bring it down to like, it gives me the sub, but it's very contained, which is, you know, a good sound design thing for subs. You know, if you want to contain the sub sound and not have it bring out or release so slowly, I mean, that's why I like making subs in massive or silent or FM8 sometimes even. So I kind of had mine around here. So around there. And for EQ, now I'm just going to move on to what I did externally outside silent. EQ, I boosted the 123 hertz frequency by around 3 dB. Mine's at 2.86 dB. And my Q, which is kind of like the fatness of the band, is at 2.82. So if you don't know what Q does, it kind of, see, as you can see, the frequency band gets shorter or fatter, or narrower or wider. And the reason why you would do that is to boost more than one frequency, or just boost specifically a few frequencies. And let's see, I do like to always cut. I like to, when I use EQs for anything, I like to cut more than I like to boost, because cutting is more natural of an algorithm than boosting. Boosting is kind of adding like phasing and irregularities and stuff, so you don't want to boost a lot. You should kind of get in the practice of cutting more things. So what I like to do with kicks, I like to cut the 1K area by like -6 dB or 9 dB. And this is a very common thing. I see a lot of people do this. This is actually the way people are taught to EQ kicks in any genre. And then what I also like to do, this one's not always pushed on people, but I think when you're making music in the box or on a computer and it's digital, then you want to start cutting around the 3K to 2K on kicks, because that's kind of like digital noise sometimes. I mean, there is a tone in this, but I prefer it out, at least on this. So this is like around 2.89 K. I cut that by -5 dB around there, and my Q is 0.71. And this right here is just sort of kind of, let me see if I can show you. Yeah. So this other band right here is just kind of reducing the slope of what I did with this one. So if I took this one off, let me see. You can see that now it's the slope of this, because of the Q, is gonna start cutting these frequencies, and I don't want that. I want the slope to be a little sharper, so that's what I did. So I brought this to around 2.95 K, so it's kind of right above this one. I boosted it by like 2 or 3 dB, and it's the same Q as the other one. And for compression, I just have a ratio of 2.93. You can have it at the ratio of 3. I just kind of brought it there. And attack is at 2.63 milliseconds. My threshold is at -24 dB, and my release is on auto, and my makeup gain is on. So that's the sub. Now I'm going to move on to to the body kick, and I will show you what sample this is for all you guys that want to know exactly what I was using. So this is a Vengeance kick, and these are good samples. They're very decent. A lot of people use them. They're kind of like the standard of samples for EDM. There are other better ones, but you know, these are so universally used that it's okay to use them. And they sound really good too, so that's a bonus. So this seems to be a Vengeance. Let me see if I can find the pack. Vengeance. Is this the one? Yeah, these are the ones I own. Because I do have other samples from Vengeance, but I just got those off of other people and I don't own those, so I can't use them or whatever, but that's fine because I like mine, the ones. So this is a Dirty Electro Volume 2 Vengeance. So if you guys wanted to get that down, this is Dirty Electro 2. This is the Delight kick. And so I didn't do much to it. I didn't, you know, change the fades or anything. I just kind of left things the way they were. And if you didn't know, in Ableton, by default, when you bring in things kind of short and like kicks, like kick samples, it'll give you a fade at the beginning so it prevents a click or a pop. And some producers like to, you know, bring that fade all the way over here so that you get the full sound, but I don't necessarily mind it in this case. And okay, so what I did in the EQ, just kind of gonna wrap up. I boosted the 76 hertz range by like 3 dB. My Q is 2.82, so that kind of just adds in more thump. And then I just cut around 949 hertz by like negative 2.83 dB, and the Q is the default Q of 0.71. Then I cut even further at 2.89 K by negative 6 dB pretty much. And then I cut even further down at around 6.59 K, and that's at negative 6 dB. And that's pretty much what I did there, because without it, you'll hear it's nice, it has a lot of nice frequencies, and it's a very good kick. But then I cut it just to get the part that I want. So I'm getting rid of that punch, that higher end 5K punch, because that's what I brought this one in for. And let's see, this is a from the same pack. So this is a Vengeance Dirty Electro Volume 2. This is the Jupiter kick, which is one of my favorite kicks. I use this one in a lot of tracks because this kick, you know, depending on how you tweak it, it could sound like anything, and it has a lot of nice characteristics. So what I did here was I boosted the 100 hertz, so 108 hertz by like 3.6 by 3.60 dB, and that the Q for that is 2.82. Then I cut at 228 hertz, negative 10 dB, just so that these don't clash so much. And I left the 1K area alone, and then I did another cut at 4K by like negative 9 dB. And then my Q is also the same as by default. And I cut the high. So pretty much you could just bring this up to 19.7 or 8K, and I just did a nice little where the hell is this one? As you can see, I selected a low pass for that, and that's pretty much it. So when you combine all those EQs and these samples, and then you combine it with the sub, you get this sort of sound. So let me solo that. And then, you know, of course, adding on the track processing beefs it up. And then when you play in a track, you know, all together, Doesn't really matter how loud everything else gets, as long as you do your gain staging right, which means, if you guys don't know what that means, that's kind of like a mixing thing where you set the volume of your kicks first, and you might want to have your kicks around. So if I play this by itself, I kind of want to have this around, you know, anywhere from -7 dB to -10 dB, or sometimes I'm okay with it going up to -4 dB. And I set the volume of my entire track that way. And then everything else is just going to be a little bit quieter than that. So as long as you do your gain staging right, the kicks are never going to go away. Because sometimes you hear like tracks that are, you know, by producers that are kind of learning and stuff, you hear like the kick is really loud in one spot, but then once it gets to drop, you can't really hear it. It kind of gets buried down. So these kicks, as long as you do things, your gain structuring right, you won't ever stop hearing these kicks. These kicks will be punching the whole way through, and that's good. So hope you guys like this. I'm gonna guess this is kind of a long tutorial. It feels like I've been talking for a long time, but you know, there had to be a lot of explanation in this. So hope you guys like this, and let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks, guys.